Speaker Gingrich, why shouldn't Governor Romney be the nominee of this party? What about his record concerns you most or makes him disqualified to be the nominee?
Well, look, I think what Republicans have to ask is who's most likely in the long run to survive against the kind of billion-dollar campaign the Obama team is going to run. And I think that a bold Reagan conservative with a very strong economic plan is a lot more likely to succeed in that campaign than a relatively timid Massachusetts moderate who even the Wall Street Journal said had an economic plan so timid it resembled Obama. So I think you've got to look at, Massachusetts was fourth from the bottom in job creation under Governor Romney. We created 11 million jobs while I was Speaker, and I worked with President Reagan in the entire recovery of the 1980s. I just think there's a huge difference between a Reagan conservative and somebody who comes out of the Massachusetts culture with an essentially moderate record, who I think will have a very hard time in a debate with President Obama.
Speaker Gingrich, bottom line, you believe that Governor Romney is unelectable?
No, I don't believe he's unelectable. I think he's I look against Obama's record. I think, the fact is President Obama's going to have a very hard re-election effort. But I do think the bigger the contrast, the bolder ideas, the clearer the choice, the harder it is for that billion-dollar campaign to smear his way back into office.
Speaker, this is your flyer that you're circulating here in New Hampshire. It says very clearly Romney is not electable.
I think he will have a very hard time getting elected.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Take 30 seconds here to get it.
I realize the red light doesn't mean anything to you because you're the front runner. But can we drop a little bit of the pious baloney? The fact is, you ran in '94 and lost. That's why you weren't serving the Senate with Rick Santorum. The fact is, you had a very bad re-election rating. You dropped out of office. You had been out of state for something like 200 days preparing to run for president. You didn't have this interlude of citizenship while you thought about what to do. You were running for president while you were governor. You were going all over the country. You were out of state consistently. You then promptly re-entered politics. You happened to lose to McCain, as you had lost to Kennedy. Now you're back running. You've been running consistently for years and years and years. So this idea that suddenly citizenship showed up in your mind, just level with the American people. You've been running for at least since the 1990s.
Speaker Gingrich, on the issue of Medicare, when you were on Meet the Press earlier in the year, you had talked about what Paul Ryan was talking about as a step too far, which is moving seniors onto a premium support or a voucher program, depending on how you phrase it. As you know, Senator Santorum thinks that current seniors should be moved off of that program into premium support or a voucher program. Do you agree with doing it that quickly and making current seniors bear the brunt of that?
Well, the fact is that the Ryan-Wyden bill, which was just introduced recently, actually incorporates allowing people to choose and allows them to stay in traditional Medicare with the premium support model or go to new methods. And I think it's a substantial improvement because it allows for a transition in Medicare in a way that makes sense. But David, I find it fascinating that very, very highly paid Washington commentators and Washington analysts love the idea of pain. Who's going to be in pain? The duty of the president is to find a way to manage the federal government so the primary pain is on changing the bureaucracy. On theft alone, we could save $100 billion a year in Medicaid and Medicare if the federal government were competent. That's $1 trillion over 10 years, and the only people in pain would be crooks. So I think a sound approach is to actually improve the government, not punish the American people because of the failure of the political class to have any sense of cleverness.
Speaker Gingrich, if you become President Gingrich, and the leader of the Democrats, Harry Reid, says he's going to promise to make you a one-term president, how would you propose to work with someone like that in order to achieve results in Washington?
I think every president who works with the leader of every opposition knows they're working with somebody who wants to make them a one-term president. I mean, that's the American process. I worked with Ronald Reagan in the early 1980s. Tip O'Neill was Speaker. He wanted to make Reagan a one-term president. We had to get 1/3 of the Democrats to vote for the Reagan tax cuts, and we did. As Speaker, I was negotiating with Bill Clinton. He knew I wanted him to be a one-term president. And we got a lot of things done, including welfare reform, because you have to reach, I agree with what Governor Huntsman said earlier, you have to at some point say, the country comes first, how are we going to get things done? We'll fight later, let's sit down in a room, let's talk it through, I'll tell you what I need, and I'll tell you what I can't do. You tell me what you need, and you tell me what you can't do, and it sometimes takes 20 or 30 days. But if people of goodwill, even if they're partisans, come together, talk it out. You know, we got welfare reform, the first tax cut in 16 years, 4.2% unemployment, and 4 straight years of a balanced budget with a Republican speaker and a Democratic president. So it can be done with real leadership.
If he were president, and when this person got out of college, he or she'd have a job. If President Obama has a second term, he or she will not have a job. Isn't that the kind of thing that makes people angry with politicians? Easy answers like that?
Well, I don't think that's an easy answer. I think that's a statement of fact. You know, but let me go back to what John DeStesso said, because it's exactly the same question. The long-term answer to $4 heating oil is to open up offshore development of oil and gas, open up federal lines to oil and gas, flood the market, as Dr. Paul said, make supply and demand work for us, not against us. The price will come down. Under Obama, 2011 was the highest price of gasoline in history. It is a direct result of his policies, which kill jobs, raise the price of heating oil and gasoline, weaken the United States, increase our dependence on foreign countries, and weaken our national security in the face of Iran trying to close the Straits of Hormuz. So the right president opening up in a Reagan tradition and using the massive development of American energy, there's 3.2% unemployment in North Dakota. There's a hint here. You can actually have jobs, lower price heating oil, which by the way means less LIHEAP spending, so you get more revenue for the federal government from royalties, less spending on LIHEAP subsidy, lower price. People are happier all the way around. That's what supply-side economics was originally all about in the 1970s.
Speaker Gingrich, what exactly is an environmental solutions agency? I think a lot of people might not know or understand that why you want to disband the EPA and set up something that kind of looks like the EPA.
If you look at the EPA's record, it is increasingly radical, it's increasingly imperious, it doesn't cooperate, it doesn't collaborate, and it doesn't take into account economics. The city of Nashville recently had a dump that was cited by EPA. They went down to find out what was it being cited for, and they told them, frankly, we don't know. We can't find the records that led to this citation, and we're not exactly sure what it referenced, but it must be bad or we wouldn't have sent it out. In Iowa, they had a dust regulation underway because they control particulate matter. And I do agree on clean air. There are things they should do that are right. But dust in Iowa is an absurdity. And they were worried that the plowing of a cornfield would leave dust to go to another farmer's cornfield. And they were planning to issue a regulation. In Arizona, they went in on the dust regulation and suggested to them that maybe if they watered down the earth, they wouldn't have these dust storms in the middle of the year. And people said to them, you know, the reason it's called a desert is there's no water. Now, this is an agency out of touch with reality, which I believe is incorrigible, and you need a new agency that is practical, has common sense, uses economic factors, and in the case of pollution, actually incentivizes change, doesn't just punish it.
Speaker Gingrich, how about tone of this campaign? I was in Iowa. I heard you on the stump. You complained bitterly about the super PAC, the outside groups that were lodging charges against you, bringing up some old issues against you. And now you have a former campaign spokesman who is preparing attacks against Governor Romney, calling him, quote, a predator for his involvement at the investment company Bain. You agreed with somebody who said that Governor Romney was a liar when he didn't take account for those attacks against you. Are you consistent now as you're preparing to launch against Governor Romney?
Sure.
How so?
I'm consistent because I think you ought to have fact-based campaigns that talk about the records.
Calling him a predator is not over the line?
Well, I think you have to look at the film, which I haven't seen, but if you look at the New York Times article, and I think it was on Thursday, you would certainly have to say that Bain at times engaged in behavior where they looted a company, leaving behind 1,700 unemployed people. That's the New York Times. That's not me. So I think one of the ads I complained about got 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post. Now, to get 4 Pinocchios in a 30-second ad means there's virtually nothing accurate in 30 seconds.
Speaker, you decry the Washington establishment, and you've just talked about the New York Times and the Washington Post. You have agreed with the characterization that Governor Romney is a liar. Look at him now. Do you stand by that claim?
Sure, Governor, I wish you would calmly and directly state it is your former staff running the PAC, it is your millionaire friends giving to the PAC, and you know some of the ads are untrue. Just say that, straightforward.
Will these super PAC ads be taken down?
David, wait a second. Come on. I'm glad finally on this stage, weeks later, he has said, gee, if they're wrong, they should take them down. They would, of course, we've sent a letter in South Carolina saying, warning the stations to just fact check them before they start running them. But I'm taking his advice. You know, we started to run his commercial from 1994, attacking Teddy Kennedy for running negative ads. We thought, no, that would be wrong. So instead, I agree with him. It takes broad shoulders to run. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. When the 27.5-minute movie comes out, I hope it's accurate. I can say publicly, I hope that the Super PAC runs an accurate movie about Bain. It will be based on establishment newspapers like the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Barron's, Bloomberg News, and I hope that it's totally accurate, and then people can watch the 27.5 minutes of his career at Bain and decide for themselves.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
The American people create jobs, not government.
Would you reappoint Ben Bernanke?
I would fire him tomorrow. I think the Fed should be audited. I'm not particularly worried about Governor Perry and Governor Romney frightening the American people when President Obama scares them every single day. When I was Speaker, we added 11 million jobs in a bipartisan effort, including welfare reform, the largest capital gain tax cut in history. We balanced the budget for 4 straight years. How would the country feel today at 4.2% unemployment? That's my credential. I'm going to outline a 21st century contract with America. It's going to be far bolder, far deeper, far more profound than what we did in 1994 or what I helped Jack Kemp and Ronald Reagan do in 1980. I am very much in favor of school choice. My personal preference would be to have a Pell Grant for K through 12 so that every parent could pick with their child any school they wanted to send them to. I think unemployment compensation should be tied directly to a training program so that 99 weeks becomes an investment in human capital, giving us the best trained workforce in the world. But I believe it is fundamentally wrong to give people money for 99 weeks for doing nothing. The Congress this year, this next week, ought to repeal the Dodd-Frank bill. They ought to repeal the Sarbanes-Oxley bill. They ought to start creating jobs right now, because for those 14 million Americans, this is a depression now. Well, I'm frankly not interested in your effort to get Republicans fighting each other. I, for one, and I hope all of my friends up here, are going to repudiate every effort of the news media to get Republicans to fight each other to protect Barack Obama, who deserves to be defeated, and all of us are committed as a team. Whoever the nominee is, we are all for defeating Barack Obama. Nothing will turn America around more than election night when Barack Obama loses decisively.